Yay. Oh, I knew that was going to Welcome to CocoaHeads 187. Get rid of me. Get rid of me. Okay. In the spirit of... I'll wait till the thing... Okay, there we go. In the spirit of reconciliation, Melbourne CocoaHeads acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people today. Okay. Tonight we have some great talks, really top quality talks tonight. Adam Little is presenting Building the Right Thing, Idea Discovery and First Steps. Thank you for coming out, Adam, appreciate it. And then Pat Brown will be presenting One Day Build, a reading app for language learners. Looking forward to that. Thanks, Pat, for coming out. Great. Code of conduct here at CocoaHeads. We want to make sure it's a safe space and everyone's welcome. So if you see anyone feeling uncomfortable or bullied or harassed, please let one of the organizers know. Myself, Bok, Baz, Tups, Marcelo can help out. Jane can help out maybe. Tristan maybe. Tristan. Anyone can help. Just let people know. If there's an online form as well, an anonymous form, so you can go to melbournecocoaheads.com/code-of-conduct. Great, some housekeeping. If you need to pee or whatever, go outside, past the lifts to the right, and there's the toilets, and in that same location, there is the emergency exit. So it hasn't happened yet, but it may. We don't have to do like a scheduled practice run, do we ever? That's not like required. No. Great. Cool. So if it happens, it's the real thing. That's it. Okay. Questions during the night. Presentations are like streamed online, so wait till the end of the presentations where we bring microphones around to ask questions. If you've got questions online, just go to our Slack channel, #Melbourne Meetup. Yep, great. MC will do that. Helps the evening flow better. Allows both audiences to participate. Thank you to our sponsors, Mantle Group. Whoa, gold sponsor, appreciate it. And yeah, couldn't do it without you, as well as REA Group. Thank you, silver sponsor. And the audiences, thank you. Keep that clap going. Awesome. Some other events happening this month. Coding. Is it something wrong with me? Coding night on the 16th of July. So that's next Wednesday. It's here at Mantle Group's office. It's just a night to bring your laptop, work on hobby projects, learn how to code. We do it with Google's developer group and Flutter. So yeah, if you're keen to work on your own things or keen to learn, come down. There's normally someone to help you and have fun doing it. It's great. Social night on the 29th of July. That's the last Tuesday of the month at Brick Lane Brewery on the second floor. It's been great so far. Who's been going? It's been all right? Yep. Been good? Awesome. Hasn't been too cold. It's been inside. Yep, great. Awesome. Other groups that, just a shout out. So Sydney CocoaHeads, GDG Melbourne, and all the CocoaHeads sort of social events are on that aunz.cocoaheads.social. Is that going to load traffic? Maybe.
No idea. There's no analytics, so we don't know.
Okay, great. How to find us specifically, go to melbournecocoaheads.com, but jump on Slack as well. That's probably where we're most active. And Mastodon. Really got to check it out. Sounds great. On Slack, though, we do that. It's a Slack between Australia and New Zealand, all the CocoaHeads. It's just CocoaHeads. Yep, cool. Did I skip it? Yep. But anything with a prefix Melbourne, that's about us. The jobs and speakers channel, that's sort of Australia, New Zealand wide. But yeah, if you're looking for work or looking for people to work, jump into jobs. And same with speakers. Also, if you've got suggestions for speakers you want to see, jump in speakers and tell us. Also, Melbourne volunteers. We're looking for people to help out with the nights. So if you're interested, jump in there. I normally, with the speaker thing, speakers, if you want mentorship and stuff, we're willing to help out if you're just trying to get into talking. Yeah, give it a shot. It's fun. A first-time speaker tonight, Adam Little. Give a round of applause. So building the right thing. Okay.
So I wanted to have a chat with you today about building the right thing, so idea discovery and first steps. I'm an indie app developer, so an indie app developer is someone that just makes their own apps and releases them to the App Store. So what I want to do probably goes a bit of audience participation. It's just the beginning bit, so the online audience probably won't see it, but I'll relay it. I'm hoping that everyone who has ever had an idea to build their own app could put their hand up. So if you've ever had an idea and you wanted to build your own app, put your hand up. And if you've actually built it, keep your hand up. If you haven't built it, put your hand down. And if you've released it to the App Store, keep your hand up. If you haven't released it to the App Store, put your hand down. Not many hands are going down. And if you've generated revenue from it, keep your hand up. If you haven't generated revenue from any apps, put your hand down. So there's probably four, 5 people in the audience who have generated revenue, 5, 6 from the audience that have generated revenue from their apps.
Clarify, good revenue or just
If you've made $1 from it, you're ahead of 99% of all people that have that have released on the App Store, I reckon, or at least had the idea and never actually executed on it. So my name's Adam Lytle. I'm an indie app developer. I also do YouTube content. So I'm a father of 5, and this is my first time doing any sort of presentation or speech, and I've been invited to do a few more of these, so I thought, what better way than in Melbourne to give it a shot and get acquainted with it and start. So people ask me, what do you even do? And when I say to them I'm an indie app developer, the first thing they do is like look at me and think, so you do like freelancing, or you work for someone? Like, no. I make my own apps, I put them on the App Store, and people pay for them. And the next question I get is like, are there any apps that I would know of? And I said, no, you probably, unless you use like a currency converter that just pairs US dollars to pesos, or you're doing a fish identifier app, or you're scanning the value of your trading cards, probably haven't heard of any apps that I've done. So when I started out building indie apps, I was $200,000 in debt, and now my portfolio in total is earning about $80,000 per month from App Store sales. And when I tell people that, the first thing they do is how, and the answer is very, very simple. I turn energy drinks into code. But in actual reality, when I set out to start my business, I named it App All Day because all I wanted to do is get to a stage where I could just build apps all day. And now I'm sort of living that dream. And what I love to do now is I create content on YouTube to help others with that passion to build their own apps and build the confidence, either as a side project to pay down debts or to do it full time. And over the last few years, I've been doing this now for 5 years. I've got a 3-step process that I use. So coming up with ideas, validating the market, and then building a minimal viable product. What I discovered building apps, like I built over 50 apps. That was a couple of years ago when I last counted. I've built far more than that. Most of the apps have just flopped, so there hasn't been any success, and some of them have been successful. So the key seems to be not only coming up with the idea, but then also working out whether anyone's even going to download the app in the first place. And coming up with ideas, you don't have to overcomplicate things. So I thought when I first got started in app development that I'd have to come up with like the next Facebook or the next Uber or the next big idea. But it turns out if you're building consumer apps, you don't actually have to have a massive idea. You can just have like lots of little ideas. And these consumer apps are just small, single-purpose tools that people download and then use. So for example, one of the apps that I built is just a pairing of currency between US dollars and pesos, and I built that in a day, and when I released it, every month after I released it, it's been paying my rent. And the best ideas actually have come from my own personal life, my own personal experience. Before doing app development, I was running a lawn mowing business. Prior to that, I was doing web design. And when I was doing web design, I was making websites, doing good money with it, and then services like Square and Wix came out, and all of a sudden I wasn't doing very good with it, and I had over $200,000 worth of debt. All my vehicles repossessed, and it just collapsed. So I wanted to go as far away as possible from building apps, from the computer, or anything like that. So I set up a mowing business and decided if I want to get fresh air, if I want to be outside, I may as well get paid to have a lawnmower in front of me and just walk around outside mowing lawns. And while I was doing that, I found myself sort of circling back a lot in a lot of the same areas that I'd visited before. And I was trying to work out the best way to work out my route from job A to job B to job C, and also trying to work out how to manage contacts, how to manage invoicing, and how to manage quotes. I had all these different systems all over the place, but nothing that was just in one place. And I'd ask other blokes that were mowing lawns, I'd say, like, hey, how are you actually tracking your jobs? How are you invoicing? And what are you doing? And their response in seriousness was, we have a piece of paper in the truck, we put the piece of paper up, on one side is all the jobs we have to do this week, flip it over, and next week is all the other jobs, repeat. And I said, well, why hasn't someone made an app that tracks it? And one of the guys said to me, well, if you know someone that can make apps, you should tell them. And I was like, well, I could make an app. So that's the first app that I created, managing my lawn mowing business. And one of my most successful app series is like these trading cards, the Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, those sorts of trading card games. And the kids loved it. They're really into it. And they would sit in front of YouTube and they would watch these influencers open up packs of Pokemon cards and then show the value of them. And they were like, oh, that's the card that I want to get. And that's how much that card is worth. And I was like, why don't you just download an app, take a photo of the card, it checks on eBay, gets an instant valuation. My kids were like, well, there's no app that exists like that. So I built it, and these apps have paved the way to generate a lot of revenue for my business just from the ideas that have come from life. Then on to the next step, validating the market. So any idea that used to come to mind, I just used to build, and I wasted a lot of time, and most of the apps would just flop. But some of them worked, and I was trying to work out what's the correspondence, why are some apps working and some apps are not working. And it turns out the apps that were working were just really easy to find on the App Store. So people would search for a keyword, they would find the app, they would download it. I wouldn't pay anything in marketing, wouldn't pay anything to sort of get a constant flow of users. So I thought I'll focus on this App Store optimization thing. And now I use tools like Astro and App Figures, and these are tools that let me determine the popularity and the difficulty of a keyword. And basically what I would do is, if I have an idea for an app, I'd type it into these tools and just find out whether these keywords are showing up at all, how many people are sort of downloading it, whether it's a popular keyword, and how difficult the keyword is to actually rank for. And then I look for a popularity over 40 and a competition under 60, and that was the nice sweet spot. It gets enough volume to get enough people using the app and downloading it, and enough, not as much competition, so it's easier to rank for. And this has saved me months in development time, trying to sort of come up with the right, working out which ones are the right ones to target. And then the third step is building the MVP. So MVP is the minimal viable product, and that's just like the version 1.0 of the app. And when I say minimum, I mean like really has to be minimum. No bells and whistles. When I release the first version of the app, my objective is entirely, can it get any traction? So can I get it ranking on the App Store? And does this actually solve the problem that I'm trying to solve? And I know that by if people are actually going to keep using the app. In fact, I don't even include any in-app store purchases on the first version. My entire objective is, does this stick or doesn't it? And if it gains traction, I'll then build on it and then add more features. And usually the features come from the actual users of the app who in the comments or the reviews say it needs feature X, needs feature Y, and then I'll build that functionality into the app, and usually that's the part of the app that I'll monetize in the future once I've added monetization. So in final thoughts, what I've learned across my journey of being an independent app developer is that ideas are just everywhere. If you're sitting in front of a computer screen and you're thinking about ideas while you're coding or while you're doing your to-do list, you're always going to come up with the idea being like, I'm going to make the next to-do list app, I'm going to make the next. But for me, what I found is actually the best ideas have actually come from listening in the real world and seeing pain points in the real world, and then integrating that, checking first to make sure that there's actually people wanting to download the app, wanting to use the app, and that it's not too competitive to target, and then build fast and test early to get that feedback loop so that you find out whether people actually want this app and what extra features people want in the app anyway. And what I've also learned is you don't need to build the big next Uber or the next Facebook to actually make good money out of this. You just have to build something valuable that people will use. So in my opinion, indie devs can still win in 2025. And I thought what I'd do is, if anyone has any questions or anything, I'm happy to answer any questions about being an indie developer, or if you've got any ideas or need any help with App Store optimization.
Hi there. Have you noticed some unusual patterns? Let's say it's super simple app without beautiful design and still rocketing as high as possible, or vice versa. It should be always nice, good-looking app, and without it, you cannot make it.
Should the apps always be really good looking, are you saying?
Basically, yeah. For success, is it? Can you get success without beautiful design?
I think you can, but what I love about SwiftUI is you can actually just build with the components already in SwiftUI, and it works really nicely and looks really nice straight out of the box. Previously I was building in like React and JavaScript, and you have to design every single element from scratch, whereas SwiftUI sort of gives you that shortcut to quickly design apps that flow and look nice as part of the iOS ecosystem. So I think generally if you stick to the core principles of designing for like an iOS app, it doesn't have to be the most beautiful and exciting looking app in the world, but as long as it's a familiar experience, people know how to use it. I guess that's the point, the usability of it. If the design of it impacts the usability, then perhaps isn't going to be as successful. But if the usability is good and you're just sticking to the iOS core foundations and fundamentals, then it's going to be easy to use and gain traction. Some of the apps that I've developed, especially in the earlier days of building, were very embarrassing when I look back at them now, and they still got traction and they still generated revenue.
Hi. Firstly, I'm a big fan of you, Adam. And my question would be, like, in your experience, how do you feel, or does like competitor who making like similar app like your affect the revenue? For example, like fish identifier, you make it, right?
Yeah.
But they're like not like in later month there are a bunch of them making it similar to you. How does that affect your revenue overall? And secondly is the evaluation of the money that you charge the user. How would you determine that? For example, as someone like me haven't like make any money, then how would I know how much should I charge the user? Yep.
Yeah. That's a good question with regards to the competitors, because I see that directly all the time. The second that I release an app and I tell people that I've released an app, all of a sudden I'll get like 5 copycats spinning up overnight. And to be honest, it hasn't actually, at first when it happened, I was really concerned that it would impact revenue and it would hurt sales. But as it turns out, it hasn't. As long as you're first in that space, or one of the first in that space, and you get a good sort of hold on the App Store optimization, and you also offer like you're passionate. That's the other thing I think talking about as well. You're passionate about building it, and you're passionate about creating it, and you've poured your heart and your soul into it. It almost becomes, even if someone does copy it or a competitor does pop up, the attention to detail that you provide it, I think people recognise that a bit more, and people are more likely to stick with you. So I haven't actually found in the App Store that the competition has impacted my revenue at all. And when it comes to those the fish identifier app, that's one that I've talked about quite extensively. And when I first built it, I think there was only like 2 or 3 on the App Store. And now I would say there's probably over 20 on the App Store, and it hasn't impacted my app in the slightest. And then the other question in regards to monetizing the right price. What I've been doing, I used to have I've tried the lifetime purchase, so you purchase and you have it outright. I've tried annual fee, but the model that's been working the best for me has been a model that's been quite popular on the App Store now, which is a weekly offering, like a weekly trial and an annual trial. And I don't like to subscribe to apps, and I don't like to have to pay for apps. And I'm an app developer who makes a living off subscriptions, so it's weird to say that. But so I was hesitant to put weekly subscriptions in there, because who would want to pay for a weekly subscription? But like over 80% of people that sign up for a subscription on my app sign up for the weekly versus the annual. In fact, I think the stats are even higher than that. And I don't exactly know why, but if I was to make an educated guess, I would think that people see a weekly commitment as less than a longer annual commitment, even though weekly over time costs more. And I thought that people would just switch over to the annual once they're using it more. But only like 5% of people actually switch over to the annual. So it's been eye-opening experience. But when it comes to monetization, the strategy that's worked for me that I put into every app that I build now is the weekly option with an annual option as well.
I have one follow-up question regarding that weekly subscription. How many people cancel after a week of free usage, or
usually people
like
will cancel after 3 to 4 weeks, I've found. So I price it so that the annual subscription is sort of the same price as 3 to 4 weeks of the weekly subscription. And then that way, whether they choose to go with a weekly subscription or the annual subscription, it's still the same amount of revenue that's coming in. But adding the weekly increased the number of people subscribing to the app in the first place. Even though they're kind of spending the same amount, more people were subscribing.
Thank you.
No worries.
Hi. When you publish the app, you need a valid web page. Do you have a web page for each app, or do you just have the one page where all the apps live?
I've created App Gallery, appgallery.io. So it's a free service that anyone can go into. You create an account, and then you put your you search for your company name in there, and then it automatically updates. So every time I was making a new app, I had to make a new website, do all of the stuff, create all of the real world website stuff, and I wanted a tool that would just be one place where everything would land, and then it would update automatically. So it keeps an eye on the App Store. Anytime I release a new app, it automatically gets added to App Gallery.
Okay. Another question. So indie developers, you need to be a coder, a marketing person, a web developer. Do you do all that, or do you get support from other areas that you pay for type thing? From people?
I do it all myself. So
Okay.
I think it's primarily the coding side that has been the biggest part of it. But now with AI coming into it and ChatGPT, I've seen that coding isn't the defining factor, what makes people successful anymore. It's that ability to market it, or that ability to actually know what product works and to sort of start building it. So coding used to be a barrier, but no longer a barrier. But you still need to, I think if you just generated an app using AI and release it, it's not going to be the best quality. So you still need to have that eye, that product eye, or just work through it on a human level to sort of work out what works from the usability perspective and how to market it as well.
Thanks. Pat.
Got a question from the online audience. I think you might have covered it off a little bit, but from Mevin, how do you go about UI, UX for the app ideas? Do you get inspiration from any existing apps, or do you hire talent from freelancing space, or do you just do your own spin of things?
How do I do the
Where's
UI
your
and
inspiration
UX
come from,
and
I guess, for
inspiration?
UX?
What I do is I don't look at any competitors and I don't look at anything else. I've done that in the past and it's really changed my opinion of what the app should look like. So when I come up with an idea or I want to build something, I will just visualize how I would actually want that to work. And then that way I get a fresh perspective on it in a way that probably if you copy a competitor or you see what a competitor is doing, you're going to sort of be inclined to think that's the way to do it. Whereas when I've developed apps and come up with my own flow of how it's going to work, I found that it's a bit easier to sort of come up with fresh ideas and a fresh take on it because you're not actually doing it the way anyone else is doing it. And then when it comes to actually designing the apps themselves, it's just like we were talking, just building it in Swift UI, and then the first instance of it is usually really clunky and horrible to use, and I kind of just obsessively use it even when I'm not coding it. I use it in real life and then play around with it. I'm like, oh, I could have done that better, I could have done this better, and over time as I'm playing around with it, I will work out different flows of doing it. So when it comes to like design, I'm kind of designing on the fly when I'm coding.
So I want to ask you, like, how do you marketing your apps? Like, how do you make it, like, people know your apps and download it?
People know my apps just through the App Store. So the target market that are using the apps, well, 99% of it, well, I don't know the exact percentage, but most of them are finding it through the App Store. And then one way what I implement into there to get other people using it is what I like to call shareable moments. So you have an app, you've downloaded it from the App Store, so you found it on the App Store through the App Store optimization. That's the first way of getting people using your app. And then when they're using it, if there's a moment in the app that they want to share with a friend, instead of them taking a screenshot and sending it to a friend, what I do is I create a share button, and when they share it with a friend, then it's got like the logo of the app down the bottom and the name of the app. And that's worked really well for like the card value scanning apps, because then like someone's done a valuation of the card and they're sending it on a public group or on Facebook or to a friend, and then it has the logo down the bottom. So not only do you have the initial downloads, but then you get like a bit of virality, a bit of growth from it.
Thank you.
No worries.
Back again. I think earlier you mentioned you had a YouTube channel.
Yes.
Did you plug that, or was it up there? Your YouTube channel?
It's Adam Lytle Apps, and it's there's a logo there, but my head's over it. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's my YouTube is Adam Lytle Apps, and my Twitter is Adam Lytle Apps as well. So if you type my name into Google, you'll find all my socials. So I think that's that. I'll hand it over to Pat.
Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. My name is Pat. I'm going to talk about, I'm doing a presentation which is called One Day Build, which is, there's a lot of similarities with what you talked about, which is I found amusing. So I did a presentation a year or two ago, 2 years ago, which went into a bit more depth about what one-day builds were. But they were sort of a way for me to learn how to program when I was starting out. So just to recap on what it was something that I would define, like at the start of the day, I would say, all right, I'm going to build this in a day, sort of a clear requirement. I'd propose a solution in the morning and then try to implement it through the day. And at the end of the day, I would sort of work out if I did it well or didn't do it well. And then the idea behind it would be that you got rid of the code at the end of the day. So it forced me to just keep iterating on things and making sure I would be able to sort of better estimate what I could do in a day and force myself to do the things to get to that point. Like even when I was starting out, just setting up a new project, that was a difficult thing. So for me to just get text on the screen, that might be the day's task. But as you get better and better, you sort of want to get to the fun stuff. So it forces you to get better at the setup, or to not get emotionally attached to your idea. Because yeah, you might want to build a big app, but sometimes you can't do that in a day. So yeah, that was the idea. Now, we needed a presentation for CocoaHeads. So that was the sort of the problem that we had. And then I was like, all right, maybe I could do a one-day build. So this was yesterday. And I was at work with Bok. I'm like, I've got an idea. So I left work straight away and very motivated to do this. We were making a one-night build. So I had an idea in my mind what I wanted to do. But driving home, ordered a pizza because I'm like, yep, got to get food. You know, I don't want to mess around, just straight into work. I did realize when I ordered the pizza that I may get tired, because generally, sometimes if you have pizza, you know, you get tired. So the intention was that I would go home. I'm wanting to learn Russian. So the issue I'm having is that I need to know the words that I see, because I've got a bunch of different apps, and then I always kind of lose track of the words that I've been exposed to before. And there's certain apps around that do this, but I just kind of wanted to make my own. I also wanted to learn some of the stuff from WWDC this year. So I was kind of like, there are a few boxes that I was ticking, and yeah, we needed to talk. So there's some stuff out there already. There's lots of like language learning apps, which people have tried maybe. Raise of hands if people have used language learning apps before. Yep, some hands in the audience, great. But the key ones were, there's an app called LingQ, and there's another one called ReadLang. And they kind of have this ability to read sort of a document. You upload a document, and then you'll see a list of words, and then you will go through and sort of tap the ones you don't know. And that's kind of what I want. I want something that I can see words. Whenever I tap the words, actually, just a dictionary that keeps track of how often I look up the word. Because if I keep looking up the word, that's the word I probably need to remember, as opposed to the ones that I don't look up. So that was the idea. And then Anki's also a good app, so some way to interconnect that. Now, this is deviating a little from the idea of one-day builds, because one-day builds are going to be something small, focused. But, you know, it was last minute, so it was just bouncing ideas around. There's a open source program. Can I play that? Maybe can I play that? Yeah. Called Loot version 3. It's like, there's a language learning community called Refold, and I think one of the community members sort of built this app, and it's built in Python. It's on Mac and PC. I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe I can just port this to iOS, because all the code's there. I won't get emotionally attached to it, and we'll see how it goes. And the idea, like you can see, sort of selecting words. This one, you're actually doing the translation and adding a picture, which they get from Bing. And yeah, but it will keep track, and you can add your own documents and stuff. I thought it'd be a good opportunity to do other things, like what did I want to use? I wanted to use some liquid glass stuff, foundation models. I was like, sprinkle some AI in there maybe. There's the attributed text selection. I thought maybe there's something we could do there. This was just brainstorming at this stage, and tab bar stuff. This is from there. Also wanted opportunity to use some of the point-free libraries, which I haven't used lately, but yeah. Now, based on that information, what would you think that I should build in a day? You don't have to answer, but has anyone got any suggestions? Anyone? No one?
Translating a word with a foundation model.
Okay, that would have been a good one. That would have been a really good one. That's a great example though. It's just finding a small thing that you want to do. That was one of them. Another one was just going to that loot thing, is going, all right, I'll just convert the database from, theirs was SQL, so I'll just see if I can get the database and the models into sort of Swift. And then as I was going through it, so because I did mention that I fell asleep, right? I had the pizza, I fell asleep. Did I mention that? No. Okay, no. So that was happening. I get home, had the pizza, and I fell asleep. So then we pivoted. I realized that sleep is important, and I should just rest. If I was tired, I'll sleep. And then I took the morning and most of the day off work. But I think it was a good exercise. And so, yeah, fell asleep, woke up in the morning, like there's a lot going on here. But one of the key things with it, I'm like, what would you build, blah, blah, blah. The game plan, that was, leave work, order pizza, look into this loot thing. I skipped a bunch of stuff. Most likely port. That's where we're at this point. Okay. Maybe porting the whole app was too much, definitely. The main thing that I really wanted to focus on was the word selection, because what we saw back there, maybe, that idea of clicking words, I realized that would involve something probably that I'm not familiar with in terms of like iOS gesture recognition and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, that's probably going to be the more challenging part, and that's what I wanted to focus on. So I knew I could most likely use TextKit, which is like more UI kit stuff or some layout stuff, but I really wanted to try use Swift UI. So I went through a few iterations. The text selection stuff wasn't too helpful, just because the idea was to be able to tap individual words. So the main issue that I was having was that within a document, you'd have to break up the words and then sort of make them sort of selectable. If anyone knows how to do this right now, by the way, please step in and just tell me, because it was somewhat challenging. But I did stuff with the text renderer just because that would give me the geometry of where the word was, but that's probably not the best approach. I was doing something where I made each word a link, and then I just did a link handler, so when you tap the word, it would just say, hey, the word's tapped, but I didn't like that because I knew in the future I'd want to be able to select multiple words and highlight things. I could do stuff using NS Layout Manager, but that's kind of similar to what you do with TextKit. And yeah, what I ended up doing was, I did a bunch of different things, by the way. And I was kind of regretting it at points, but I realized it was a valuable learning experience. And I haven't done it in a long time. So it was like, it was cool to kind of do this, and I was forced to get a result, even though I really wanted to try and get it correct. So I'm just going to show you where I got to. I'm not going to show code, but how do I do? I should have duplicated. I'm just going to close the presentation. I'm closing the presentation. And then connect and drag across. Oh. Yay. I feel like that's lagging. Anticlimactic. Okay, so we got a list, which is fine. So if your eyes good, hello. Yeah, okay, that's better. Is that fine? You can see me and you can see that. All right. So I did this. I was copying the, there's nothing on home screen, but I copied like the books thing. And then we got, this is like Dostoevsky, apparently. Is that how do you pronounce it? Dostoevsky, yeah, whatever. And so we got the words, and then they are tappable. Hey, wait, I might be muted though. So this little glass thing, let's see if she speaks. Yep, great. We got text to speech, whatever. So yeah, so that kind of worked. It was challenging, and then it does have a word list, which is just like the amount of times I've tapped them. So that was kind of like the main thing I wanted, and we got there. It was a good day off work, but it sort of opened my eyes to what I would do next time, which is maybe probably use TextKit. Like, it's pretty much the tool for the job, and yeah, but some of the logic that I use today, I would still use in TextKit as well, and it made me learn about some APIs. So, actually, there was one thing which is like in iOS 26, yes, you can now get access to the font resolution context, which is something that I've wanted for a long time, but now it means you can get a CT font from a SwiftUI font, which makes it a lot easier to kind of like build components in UIKit and sort of work like together with SwiftUI fonts. Even though it wasn't the focus of today, it was still something that I learned that I'll be able to apply at a later point, which is kind of the point of these one-day builds, to kind of force yourself to go through, try different things. And you could do the same like project, but just set different parameters to say, all right, I'm going to do it in UIKit today, I'm going to do it in SwiftUI today, I'm going to do it, in whichever way you want. But I would also, yeah, I'm keen. I'm definitely going to do this. Like, I probably won't port that loot thing. Like, the idea behind that was that I could do it, and it would just be like, it means I don't have to maintain it as much. Like, it would be, I don't have to decide on features, but I don't think that really works for a web, like a desktop-based app. I just don't feel like it's going to be as fun to do the things that I want to do. Anyway, yeah, so I want to add more stuff to it, and better translation, voice synthesis, and uploading documents. So we'll get there. So slow and steady wins the race. Anyway, thanks. Any questions? Did we get 15 minutes? 15 minutes?
About that.
Yeah.
If you've not tried to port stuff to Swift before, give it a go. It's a good one-day build. You'll learn a lot
I'm
of
keen to
lessons.
do it so I can contribute back. Like, so then it's like, all right, this is just a loot. People that want to use it on their phone can just use it. So I am keen to do that.
Good luck.
Question to Adam.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
How would you capitalize that? How would you sell it? Yes.
Well, this has
Like
never happened before.
what should Pat
I should.
do from here
Yeah.
if you wanted to get some money out of it?
Is this one working? I was
What?
already looking at it through that lens as well, and thought that there's probably a actual use case in there. I think in the current form that it is, there's the ability to sort of look up a single word, and like you already pointed out, the multiple words is the
Well, yeah, I want to do phrases and stuff.
yeah. So I guess from a usability perspective, if I was going to use the app, I would be importing my own text into the app to test and then look up. So I think to monetize it and to turn it into a product, it's making that easier to import text into there or integrate it into other parts of the iOS is what I would do to sort of make it into yeah.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah. Let me get my pad.
Yeah, so I think that fleshing it out a bit more, like turning it into a product, would be the first step to monetizing it.
Cool. Wasn't the plan, but we may as well go for it.
Don't quit your day jobs.
Nah.
But I've got a question, because I haven't played around with liquid glass yet. So I was wondering what it was like implementing that into the app itself.
There are a few bugs that were happening. Like, I had to, so things like the navigation stuff has been different across each OS version, but like the tab bar that's got liquid glass, and then it persists across like going into different sheets. It can be clunky when the animation, like sometimes it will sort of shrink and disappear, but I didn't do anything custom, which would probably be in a future thing with menus and stuff, where you can do like collapsible buttons and stuff like that. Like, there's nothing in that is sort of using custom liquid glass things, just the defaults. But It's fine. It's it's just like it's still a bit rough. That's all. Like
But did you have to implement anything to get the liquid glass effect, or is it just working straight
no,
out of the
it's
box
worked.
with
So the
software?
native tab bar and stuff. The only thing that like you've got, there's that thing at the bottom is just the sheet, but there's also I wanted to have a bottom accessory thing, and I also played with a menu. So the menus, when you tap the word, could come straight from the word, but I just didn't like the it prevented the interaction with the background when there was a overlay, like a context menu or something like that. So yeah, I still would want to play with those ideas, and it potentially would involve doing a custom overlay that used the liquid glass background. But yeah, in terms of the tab bar and all that, that's just out of the box, and just some extra modifiers that you get to give you some ways to customize it. So easy is the answer.
Thank you. My question would be, how many percentage of AI that you use to help you implement this application?
I asked ChatGPT like 3 questions. One was, I've got a library that has things that are documents, and I'm like, I don't want to call them books. Can I call it like library item or something? And then it said, yeah, library item's fine. And then I asked the same thing about like a vocabulary list or something like that. And then I asked it about the how to get the boundary box of text, and the answers it gave me were very outdated and stuff. So I didn't spend much time on AI, but that's not the point of this anyway. Like the point is to teach yourself stuff. It's not really to get for me anyway, like it's like going through and exploring the different APIs is helpful. Like even that font thing, it's like, it really wasn't the thing to use, but it just meant I actually could grab the font and then use NSString to get a boundary box. It worked, but the performance was just no good. And then so one of the other things that I wanted to do was I just put it in a scroll view, which meant all the text got rendered straight away, which meant I had to do tokens, which like words for each word. Whereas in some examples I've seen with apps, they'll do pagination, like it's in a text that you break across multiple pages. That in itself is probably a challenge because you have to know how many words can appear on the screen. So yeah, even like Kindles, right? They'll say you're at this section, you're on page 1 of 19, but if your text is real big, it means you're going to be on page 1 of 40 or 50 or something like that. So it's like, that's a step. So that would be, I would think about that and like, that's a problem for another day. So like, you do a 1-day build that said, all right, I just want to work out how I can get text to display in multiple pages, regardless of what like dynamic type size it is. And then, yeah, so I can't even remember what the question was, but yeah. Oh, was it the AI question?
Yes.
Yeah. Why was I talking about that? Okay.
You were learning.
It's about learning, yeah. There's plenty of stuff out there to learn.
You could also learn how to use AI.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, because I wanted to actually run it through the loop thing and say just like port this over, and then and see what what the result was. But I'll save that for another day because that was Pete's thing last year. Someone else? Oh, sorry.
Question for Pat. Did you go for iOS, but did you consider Mac? And
No, I did,
why not?
but I just like
For simplicity, or was
simplicity
it
and
yeah.
because I didn't want to do conditional stuff, and even so, it is in a navigation split view, but I started in navigation stack, and but yeah, like if it's on a Mac, it means that tab bar will go to a sidebar, and then there's just a bunch of other considerations to having, so right now I hide the tab bar when there's a page presented just because I don't like the idea of, I also want a nice reading app. There's that like Bear app that's just like really nice, or like any like Kindle thing or whatever that's like nice to look at. I want that to be the reading experience. So yeah, I want it to be very minimal, but in a Mac app, you just have to change that sort of behavior, right? Like you might have to hide the sidebar, and I just didn't want to worry about that. So, But that would be an example. It's like today I'll do it in the Mac, like just the Mac version. So it would work on Mac now though, just not very good. Great, thank you audience. On it, one more.
One last question.
In the end of the day, did you use foundational models?
No, but that's kind of like, I really want to do that because there's examples. So a few things with Russian anyway, you know Russian cases. But one thing that I've noticed with some like other software that I've used or whatever, you'll select a word and then you'll select like the plural of that word or another variation of that word. And seeing like, when I was starting out learning or whatever, seeing like a bunch of words that all look similar and not being able to link them together was challenging for me. But then to sort of like tap one word and like it might have a root sort of version of that word. I think the foundation models will potentially be able to help a lot with that to sort of say, all right, you've got a word that's derived from this word, and then here's some other contexts that's appeared in, or like example sentences. And I think even, just to do summaries of the like part of speech, things like that, I think would be very helpful, but who knows?
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Pat. Well, thank you for that, Pat. That was a great presentation. Right, and Adam, we've got a clap as well. Just a reminder about the other events this month. Coding night next Wednesday. I might even work on my own little app. That might be good. You can come, we can collab. It'll be great. Okay, and then social night on the 29th of July. Looking forward to it. Thanks again to our sponsors, Mansell Group and REA. And that wraps things up. So we'll go to the social time nearby, Mitre Tavern. Awesome. Thank you everyone for coming. Great. Good CocoaHeads.